G'day, I'm Bruce. In this video we're going to do some work on this 60-year-old two-stroke V12 dump truck. Towards the end of last year, before it got too wet, we only had a very short window in time to shift this truck, and we had it moved back here, and it's rained pretty well ever since. Because it's been so wet, there's not much else I can do. I thought I will try and get these hydraulic hoses off the back and get some new ones made up. Then I thought I might change the engine oil and get a few more things ready, so when it does dry out, I'll be able to drive it out somewhere down the back, tip the back, and then I might be able to take it around the front and might even be able to put some dirt in it and see how it goes. What I think I'll do, I think I'll undo this hose here and try and get it around out the way. I'm going to have to get in there behind there if I can fit and see if I can get the other end undone. It's going to be pretty awkward, but everything there's pretty messy, but that's just the way things are.
Yeah, I can see it up there. It's going to be quite hard to get at.
The one on the outside is going to be easy, but I'm going to have to get an exact fitting open ender, I think, and get up in there, possibly even a bit of pipe on the end of the open ender so I can get enough leverage to see if I can get it undone, but difficult place to get at, definitely. I'm just going through my box of large open enders. I always try and keep them separate to all the other spanners. A lot of times I don't need them, but on some of these big machines I do. I don't think it'll be metric. I think we're running out of options. It's about our last chance. That's it. 1.25 inches. I don't know whether it's got bulges on here or whether it's just dirt. I'm not quite sure what's going on there, but it's certainly a pretty dirty looking hose. I'm just going to try and clean this up as best I can, because you never know, sometimes you can't get another, you might be able to get the right fittings, or you might be able to get whatever, and I might have to put it back on. Just makes it a bit easier too if you've got something that's a little bit cleaner. I've got my short bit of hose here, it only just reaches the leaky old fitting, which is pretty bad. Yeah, I'm just trying to scrape off this old oil and dirt around this fitting. I've got one side, but the other side's a bit awkward to get at. Some people go the other way, they'd probably undo it and then try and get it clean, but less chance of getting dirt in the system by going this way. I've got this other gun here that I've made up with a real tight bend. You can't actually buy anything like that that I've ever found anyway. It's really good for getting around places that are hard to get at. Let's turn it around the other way. Time for the brake clean, if I can find the nozzle. It's here somewhere. Got a piece of copper pipe here today. All my plastic ones must have all worn out. This is actually a piece of copper pipe out of an old temp gauge, manual temp gauge. You can bend it into whatever shape you want. It's just a piece of copper pipe. Here we go. Pretty easy. A lot of these things I find when you first crack them like that, see how all the dirt and everything here has become loose? Like, you've tried as hard to clean as you can, but once you actually do that, It loosens up a lot of that dirt. Then it's probably a good idea to retighten it and give it another blow off. I mean, it takes time to do all this sort of stuff, but it depends how good a job you want at the end of the day. You probably should tighten it back up again, because if you give it doesn't have to be real tight, but if you give it a blast, a bit of a blast now, let's blow a bit more rubbish off out the way. Rightio. I'd like to get it out of the way so I can get under there a bit easier. That drain a bit. If I'm underneath there and I undo it, I'll only cop a big shower of oil. Looks pretty clean, which is probably a good sign. We've never tried to lift the back because we were always scared we'd be at the quarry and we'd blow another hose, and the quarry mightn't be happy if they see any oil on the ground. Righto. Might see if I can just give that a bit of a good wipe down. After years of working on dirty stuff, now I just like to sacrifice a bit of clean rag and say, right, I'll try and clean that up a bit so I'm not just hanging on to absolute grease and dirt. I think I'll just lay it in the tub if it'll stay there. I don't know whether that'll be a good idea or not, but I've got to be able to get back under there. Got to be able to try and fit through there. All the stuff you need to do the slightest little job. I reckon that's about perfect. Away we go. Alright. That was easy. Pretty good. There we are. Hose looks pretty good. I'll just give that a bit of a wipe up around the back there. Of course I can get back out. I got in there. Got to be able to get back out, haven't I? There we are. Hose doesn't look too bad, I think. Probably one of the best hoses on there. And what have we got? We've got sunshine now. Hooray! We've got to come out and have a look at the sunshine. Well, let's just sit there like that. Yep, there it is. I just went up. I knew I had a new one in stock, because you must always have a bit of that sort of stuff in stock. So, fixed. Beautiful. Yep, only a 2-minute job. Right, around here we're ready to start on the other side now. So eye protection first. And the other way. Watch your eyes, cameraman. This one may be easier than the other one. I've loosened the dirt off around here. So I'll just tighten that back up a little bit. Doesn't have to be real tight. Run round again. And that'll get that stuff off I couldn't get the first time. Turn that a bit. And the back. I've got this one ready to come off. Should be pretty good. Sometimes you think you can get them by hand. Yeah, they'll come off pretty easy. The cameraman reckon the other end on this side is going to be a lot easier on this side than the other side. Just drain that all out of there a bit. Like that. I'm going to get underneath here and see what I need. It's a lot closer. It's got a second line going around there to something. I don't know what that goes to. Right, we'll give it a shot of here. Pretty good. Right, I'm going to need that bit of pipe. 2-inch pipe. Rightio. There we go. Got him. I'll just nip that back up a whisker. Yep, it's loose. I'll just tighten up a little bit. I'll run that air hose around it. Blow off gun. Just blowing the excess dirt off it. I'll do the top side where the shifter was in the way. Underneath side. My eye protection's pretty fogged up, so I'll have to work by braille. Take my protection off now for a second so I can see. Everything's fogging up. Yep, I'm going to put my protection back on. Wind's blowing every which way. Sun's out, but it's nice. The more you can turn that, the old timers would say you're getting a full bite. If you can turn it like that, mate. That's what they used to say in my part of the world anyway. There he is, he's off. You beauty. The worst part is rust. If they rub through like that and it goes rusty, they don't last long after that. Especially if they're in a position like that. On those rams they would probably be moving a certain amount anyway. as the truck body's going up. They'd be doing that every time, every load and unload. Yeah, so it was actually easier than what I thought. When I looked underneath the back at that first one where it was up underneath there, I thought this could be a pretty bad job, but yeah. Just thought I'd have a bit of a quick look over those power steering hoses, and I'm looking here at this one. This one here was obviously it's got a piece missing out of it. I think we might take it off. It's easy to get at. Things like this, you need something with a fairly narrow beak to get on that one. So I'll probably put my open ender on that one, and probably put the shifter on this one where it's wider. See how that's wider? This one's narrow. Open ender here, shifter here. This one up here is much the same. There's a fair bit of dirt flying around here. Right, we'll try and get around the back. That's a bit better. That's the only way I can work it, just like that. Boy, oh boy. Well, wasn't that one tough? That is 1 1/8". Yep, I thought we'd have to have something that would fit it. I'm going to need that bit of pipe, I think. If it's as hard on there as the other one, I'll definitely need that bit of 2-inch pipe. Got to stop that one from coming undone. And that's the one I want to undo. Will that even fit on that? Just. Righty-o. Right, got him. That made a big difference. As any old mechanics know, you always go for longer spanners or bits of pipe to put on the end of them to make the job a bit easier. Right, I'll give them a bit of a blow off. Now I've disturbed them. Now I've got that one snug back up a bit. Plenty of dirt lying around. I know I'm probably doing everything the slow way, but it is the clean way. And if you go to this much trouble before you undo anything, there's probably less chance of getting dirt and grit back into the system. And it probably is a bit quicker when you go to put things back together too, because you haven't got to be trying to clean up stuff all the time that's dirty, and trying to keep the dirt out of the middle of the pipes. Yep. That worked out pretty good because I didn't want to undo that. You don't, like, I mean, I don't really know what's in behind that, whether it's got a brass or a copper washer. Could have an O-ring. I'll just move that container over there. Spanners laying here everywhere. Get back under there. Whenever we undo these hoses, we always try and put a tub underneath there to catch the oil. Now let's put that there. Oh, it mightn't be too bad. Right, there we go. tub underneath there. You can see both ends there, and they're both draining. I'm just going to get a bit of rag and try and block them up. Right, that should have that fixed. And that, we've got everything covered. The spanner ready to fall straight into the oil pot. Much easier to change it here now than what it is in the bottom of someone's dam or somewhere where it could get bogged or something, and all of a sudden it blows the hose and you're really working in the muck. So look at that, like a hunk of steel. Well, we've got the 3 hoses ready to go. I'll just give the fellow a ring that we normally get to fix our hoses up for us. I'll give him a ring and just see if it's at work and see if he can do the job for us now.
Hello.
Hey Corey, it's Bruce here.
Hey mate, how you going?
Oh, pretty good. Yourself?
Yeah, not bad. What can I do for you?
I've got 3 hoses here off of Wally Wabco, and I was wondering whether you'd be able to, are you down the workshop today or?
Yeah, I'm actually doing a job right now if you want to swing by.
Okay then, I'll get the 3 hoses and we'll come down and see if you can fix them up for us.
Yeah, no worries, I'll see you shortly, eh?
Yes, thanks Corey. Bye now.
No worries, mate. Catch up, bye.
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 Well, it looks like we're going to go down and get them fixed. That'll be really good. How you going? Pretty good. Yourself? That's good. Take the glasses off so I can see. Places like this have a massive amount of fittings, so if a person comes in here with any sort of hose, they've got the parts to fix them up. Got any new hoses? Just going to pull the caps out of the end here, which is a good idea to stop any junk getting in it while it's riding around on the back of the ute. They usually blow a pallet. They usually have a pallet they blow through there. Just got this little hunk of rag here, about the size of that piece of rag, roughly. I'm just going to blow that through here in case there's any contamination from where they've actually cut through the hose, because there's a couple of layers of steel braid running through here. When they cut that off, there might be some metal shavings in there. We don't want that going through the hydraulic pump. I'm being extra cautious. And I did see them blow the pallet through, so that rag will go in the bin now. So we'll get a new piece of rag. Just check it's clean, yep. I'll go the other way this time. The other thing which can help sometimes is with a lot of these fittings, you can set your hose in exactly the right position you want it. When you really start to wring that thing's neck, it'll try and grab a hold of this and try and twist your hose where you don't want it. So about the only way I could think of to try and stop that a bit is if you get the oil can, WD-40 or something, put a bit of that in behind that nut. So you hope it gets more grip here, more grip there than what it does here. What I'm trying to say is as you're tightening that up, you want this to be fairly free here, but you want that to grip onto the other fitting on the inside. You want the pipe to grip on the other side, and that might stop it from turning. I need a bit of rag just to wipe my hands on. Short hose, easy to get at but very hard, so I had to get the cameraman to help me put this hose on. It's just too hard. That's about where it's going to have to go. It's about where it's going to have to go. I might be able to move it in a little bit. There's not much else that can really hit it unless the tyre comes around that far. Right. This one up here is a bit of a different story. Yeah, so he's trying to turn there now. Got to be tight. Right, it's just started to move. Probably be good enough. It has moved just away a little bit. We can always see if it's in a good spot anyway. If it's leaking, we'll soon see it. But I'm pretty sure I've got it tight enough. Yeah, we have lost a little bit of oil there. While we were away, the one end was still dripping pretty well, and so we've got some more oil there to top up the hydraulic tank. I'll take the air hose with me to blow a bit of mud away. I'm going to get a bit of dirty rag and just wipe that oil off. I'm not going to use my nice clean piece of rag, so I've just got to find the cleanest dirty rag. That one will be perfect. Bit of WD-40 in the end there. Be pretty free. Just going to bung this off because it's going to be waving around everywhere while I'm trying to get the other end on. A bit of WD-40 also in there. Right, just going to put this other cap back on until I get really down in position so I don't drop it in the dirt or don't contaminate it. Right, I think I'm ready to get underneath there. I'll probably need a torch. I've got torches here. Yeah, and once a good battery powered torch, you can see there they're Narva. We're not being sponsored by them in any way, but they're both Narva. They probably don't make this one anymore, the old one. You'll probably only see that one out there now. And they've got their switches on the back. Yeah, this one will go a bit brighter. Then if you push it again, it'll go to the light on the front. Push it again, it'll go off. So basically it has about three different things it can do. This one will only just do the one basic thing, on and off. If you're like me, you're getting older, eyesight's failing, you walk in the shed, you open some drawers, you can't find a thing. You can probably turn your lights on, but most times the lights are still too far away in the daytime. So I just go straight for one of these. You can look it straight down there, right. I can find the right spanner or the right fitting. So I think they're just great. I've got to be able to have it so I can still turn it. Not too bad. Try and set it where it hasn't got too much strain on it. Maybe around a little bit more. wasn't that part easy? Can't believe it was that easy. Run them up against the chassis. Alright, if I can get that shifter to stay there, which it might. Yeah, if I can. Right, got him. That should be pretty right. I'll just turn that around again. I'm trying to get another bite. If I can get that round there a bit more, I think I've got it. Oh yeah. Right. Righto. So far it hasn't tried to turn. I thought it was turning, but it's the whole ram moving. Right, that is tight. You wouldn't think that'd be as free as that, would you? Massive ram like that. Oh well, doing the countdown. We'll pack up here and we'll move all our equipment around the other side and see if the other side's going to be as easy as that one. That one was very easy. Yep. Could probably do it a bit more light. Don't really want them to be stressed up. I'll take the bung out. Around there. Always like to do them up as much as I can by hand. That way you know they're not being cross-threaded. Same with carburetors. Never put a spanner or a screwdriver in until you know you've got the thread right. That's pretty snug. It's about where it's going to have to rest. Yep, it's pretty close to the tyre, but I suppose it'll be the same length as the one that came off it. I'll just check which spanner I'm going to need inside there. It'll be that one. That's probably going to be about it. Rightio. Can I get out? Yep. Just stuff falling down. Right, I'm out. The bung there, the bung out of that one. So I'll try and turn. Is that, no, maybe it isn't right. That's better. Well, I want to try and keep it about there, I think, if I can. Just check. It's always best to check that they're not rubbing on. Look at this one. maybe. Right, that's tight. Wouldn't have been tighter than that. Well, it's got them on. 3 hoses are on. Well, we've got the hydraulic hoses on there now. The next job will be put some oil back in the hydraulic tank, because obviously we lost a fair bit when we undid the hose up the front going onto the power steering box. And then after that we will probably run the engine and warm it up a bit, and then drain the oil, change the filters. We might even pull the bottom part, the lower part of the sump on this machine off. This engine can come off. We might pull it off and have a look in there, see how much sludge and whatever's in there. So the next job will be I'm going to climb up and pump that oil into the hydraulic tank. It's probably easier to walk across this side than what it is the other side. The other side's got all that gear there. I hope I haven't put on any weight. I got through here last time. It's a pretty tight squeeze. Hope the rail's not ready to break off. Righto, next up, can I undo that? Yeah, I can get it undone by hand. I'll make that a bit easier. Just see if it'll sit there. If I don't go too hard, it'll probably just stay there. Rightio, must be story time. I've got heaps of stories to tell, but some of them are probably pretty boring. But this one's about my friend that bought the red David Brown tractor, 990, red with yellow wheels, probably about a 1959 model or 1960 model. Anyway, the motor was pretty bad. So he pulled the motor apart, put rings and bearings in it, new gaskets, valve grind, put it back together. And even before he pulled it apart, it had to have arrow start to make it run. So he put it back together, still wouldn't fire up. He was really disappointed. He'd done all this work, did everything himself. Anyway, someone said, oh, it'll be the injectors. The injectors will be worn out. Pulled the injectors back out, had them tested with a gauge and all. No, the injectors were fine. Put them back in, still no good. Someone else said, oh, you haven't set the tappets properly. You'll have some riding valves. That means the valves are held open. You haven't got enough compression. So he goes through, very carefully checks all the tappets again, all the valve clearances. Everything was fine. Still wouldn't start. Anyway, he sort of gave up on the idea and just thought, well, I don't know what's wrong with it. So my old fishing mate came round here one day, and I was telling him about it. He was actually a baker by trade, but he worked in the forestry workshop. Of course, the forestry here, they had dozers and trucks and they had all sorts of equipment. And he was the man in the office that used to order the parts. So all the time he was surrounded by mechanics. So he's running through everything, and he said, oh, has it got a blocked air cleaner? And, you know, he said it'd probably be injectors. And I said, no. Anyway, the next thing he says, which is a very unusual thing to say, he said, would it be the timing? And I said, heck yeah, that's what it'll be. I thought, right, this will be a pretty good test. This is probably what's wrong with this tractor. This thing had done a lot of hours, and of course, the more hours they do, everything wears a bit, and everything is later. Like it goes towards retarded rather than towards advanced. So anyway, I goes up to my friend's place, and I said, oh, I reckon I know what's wrong with David Brown. He said, what do you reckon? I said it needs advancing up. So they have three nuts, I think they were, and on studs. So under these 3 nuts, and I was pretty keen. I thought, oh, can I move the pump without undoing all the lines? I could move it a bit. So I grabbed the pump, screwed its neck as hard as I could, tightened the nuts back up. I can't remember which way I turned it, but anyway, he hopped on, hit the key, boom, just started like that. He said, holy mackerel, look at that, it fixed it. And I said, yep. So anyway, I said, you should get my mate a carton of beer. I said that was his idea about the timing. And my mate said, what does he drink? I said, I'll find out. So he went and got a carton and brought it round, left it here. Next time my old fishing mate comes along, I said, I got you a carton. He said, what's that for? And I said, it was your idea about the timing. I said, that reminded me. So I said, here you are, here's a free carton. And he couldn't believe it. He said, oh, beauty, thanks very much. And a carton to him probably meant a fair bit. So how's that for a story? Always check the injection timing on those real old motors anyway. Or tractors, old trucks, all that sort of thing. So I guess the story time's got to be over because I'm running out of oil now. I hope it wasn't too boring, but for any of those people, old tractors or old motors, and if you've had the same thing, where you think they've got plenty of compression, whatever, but they still won't fire up, adjust the timing somehow. I reckon that's nearly the end of the oil. Yep, I'll tell you what, old Wally's had a pretty big thirst for oil. We put quite a lot of oil in different compartments in it by now, but that's just the way you go if you're dealing with big gear. Everything's big capacity, so even the top-up might be a 20 litre or something for a top-up in something like a hydraulic tank, but that's the way it goes. That's just part of the fun. If you're playing around with that sort of stuff, well, you just got to be prepared to buy the oil and have some fun with it. Right, that'll turn out good. I've got to turn this off, even though it's not a great seal, but I will turn it off. Yeah, so I've got heaps of stories to tell, but I don't know which ones to tell, and some might be very boring to some people, but okay for other people, so. Right, I'll be able to grab that from down on the ground, I think. Unless I pass it down to the cameraman. Even the bung has made a big hunk of solid steel turned down. Tell you what, when they built stuff back like this, they really made stuff to last, didn't they? I don't know how long they expected things like this to go for, but when you look at something like that hydraulic tank and you look at all the nuts and bolts holding the thing together, boy. Yeah, it'll be that way in the end. There probably won't be many of these around or many of them surviving. So I hope this one lives a lot longer. At the end of the day, something like this, I'm only really the caretaker. And when I get too old or pass on, it'll be someone else's job to pump the oil into Wally and put the new batteries in and hopefully have some fun. Some people would probably reuse this oil, but I won't. Pretty handy gadget this. It's an old outboard motor fuel tank. Had it for years, and this sort of plastic's quite good because it doesn't go, well, it hasn't gone biodegradable and fall to bits. If you go and buy some of those more modern things, they're real, pick them up full of oil and you can feel them ready to collapse just about. They're that thin. But so this has worked pretty good for us. Just got to crawl underneath there now. Second battery. Just got to figure out which one goes where. Yep. Must have sat out in the bush that long that they haven't been undone for many years. Just checking to see that we are in neutral. I'm just checking. You can see here, there's the N, there's the R. So I'm right up against the end. I always want to really double check that on something like this, especially when you're doing what I'm going to do is start it from underneath. We don't want it taken off. So I reckon that's right. The throttle's in the idle position. I'm going to need a torch, I think, to be able to see. And from memory, I think that was the other one. I'll just touch it and see if that's it. Yep. Starter motor's going to try. I'm going to get out of here. Doesn't Wally sound good? 12-cylinder engine sounds really great. But I've always believed in most things, if you start them up cold, at least give them fast idle, and that splashes more oil up underneath the pistons. It's a good idea to give them fast idle to make sure. Even rev them up a bit, splash that oil around a bit more. Some things aren't pressure lubricated, some things are, but the things that aren't pressure lubricated, like a lot of times where the lifters are running on the cam, lifters like this, the cam's going around, and the oil's down here, the oil's getting splashed around down here, but up here, the oil's got to get splashed up underneath the cam where the cam is pushing on the lifter. Otherwise, the next thing it'll wear the cam out and wear the lifters out. That sump's got a bit of a ding in it too. I reckon that sump could do with a bit of panel beating, because that might be touching the strainer, which is not good. It's a long bum. Wow. There's the gas there, I might heat that up a bit. Wally needed a change. Looks pretty dark. Here we go. I think this container might be a bit more than 20 litres too. Imagine, all this stuff just looks like junk when it's laying around the paddock, and all of a sudden when you go to do a job like this, well, it comes in quite handy. It's taken me years to collect all these sort of things. Right, I'm just going to try and heat up around the outside of that bung. That bung's got a square, half-inch square, the same as that. And that is in there really tight. I don't know why it would ever need to be that tight. So, have I got gas on? Oh yeah, unlock. Here's your regulator here. Alright, we got him. Alright, where's my better heat does? Still pretty warm. Yeah, bit of muck came out of there. Beauty, I was starting to get worried there for a minute, I thought. Well, looked pretty sludgy, that couple of lumps that came out. Poor old Wally. Well, I reckon Mum always said, if you're going to do a job, do it properly. So we've got both those bungs out, we're going to drain the oil out. I reckon I'll probably pull this part of the sump off. The sump's actually in two pieces. There's a really big long sump, it goes right along there. It's got an inspection cover here. It's got this other lower section here. I'm going to pull that part off and see if the strainer's clean. I don't know whether you have looked at my other earlier video on the transmission. There's a fair bit of stuff on the strainer on the transmission in this truck, on the Ellison. The other reason I'm going to pull this piece off so I can get rid of this dent, panel beat that sump back out so it's nice and level. Righto, we're going to take the sump off now. There we go. Sludge down the back mainly. Well worth pulling off to give it a good clean out. You can see it's got a fair bit of sludge and junk laying in the back there. That's why when I pulled that back bung out and there was all that jelly looking stuff come out, you can see where the sludge has been laying at the back there. but I can't see any massive bits of big end material or anything like that sitting in there, so that's a good sign. We've got this little plate on the bottom of the sump. I thought, for what? Is it a lash cap or something? But I guess that little plate's probably dropped off one of the injectors. I didn't film this part on straightening the sump out, but I'll give you a bit of a demo of what had to be done. The bottom part of the sump, it's probably been bogged at one stage. That was the back. I'll put it that way. That was the front and that was the back. This was pushed back and this was bowed in. You can see from about here to here. It probably got bogged or something at one stage, and this bit got pushed in like that and pushed in like that. And this bung was leaning back, this bung was leaning forward. So I was able to get that bung out, as you saw on the video. And there's a bit of a lower section here. Quite well made. So any sludge or anything should go back here and drop down. Really good setup, I thought, and you got the choice of these 4 bungs. Yeah, when I say bogged, I mean the truck was bogged in the mud. I don't mean that the sump was actually bogged up with body filler. So anyway, what you really need then is a big old stump like that with a hole in the middle, because as you can see the bungs are protruding. So you need somewhere where you can put that down so it's going to end up flat. So I thought that's probably about as good as I'm going to get it, and then I can reverse it around the other way. And the bungs will be down in that hole there, like so. So the first part of the procedure is it's better to warm it up rather than do it cold, because there's more chance for it cracking if it's cold. So obviously in the middle of the day would have been perfect, but it was getting late in the afternoon, so I've just got one of these gas blow torches. So all I did is just run it round in the middle, like so. Just ran that along where I wanted it to actually bend. You can see this part here was bent along that line. That was pushed up, that was pushed up. So I just started up here, I just heated that up. Probably heated up for probably a couple of minutes, just warmed it all up so it wasn't too hot. Then you want a really hard block of wood, like so. That's probably a bit of old flooring that's been dressed up. So you start off, you don't try and do too much in one go. You've got to try and work your way along. So what you do then is you just get a crowbar that's got like an end on it like that, like a pad on the end. Just come along. When you belt it, try and hold it down. Don't just let it bounce. You don't want it bouncing like that, because it's hard for it, it'll just spring back. You won't get it to ever go quite where you really want it. So when you go down like that, you hold it down. You can hear I'm holding it down. That's letting it bounce. So you work your way around. You don't have to get that perfect first up. Then you reverse it round, heat it back up again, you start up this end and you work your way back. So the block's long enough you can get both ends done. You just work your way along. You can work over in the corners a bit if you want to. Just work your way down. Remember, you're going to hold it down. You can move that around a bit. In the end, you do away with your block of wood, and you'll find you'll probably never quite get it right, but you're very close. So the next thing, you get a bit more brutal, and you try and get that on the right angle so it's going to sit there nice and flat. You just give yourself a bit of a demo and you say, right, it's about that. Then there again, you hold it down. You don't let it bounce. You work your way around. And you can sort of tell by the sound of it that it is starting to lay nice and flat there. Get the other end, just go around. Then the real trick then is to see how good a job you've done. You go like this. You get your ruler. We're working our way along with the ruler. Looking pretty good. You can go this way if you want to, if you're really super fussy. But it's probably easy an hour's work there, tapping and whatever, to get it as good as that. I've got a little dent in here, but I thought the risk of actually cracking it or splitting it, I'll just leave it there. I don't think it'll cause any problem. Another little dent here on the side, which may have been, that motor may have been pulled out at some stage and might have been swinging around on the end of a chain or something. So it's had a bit of a whack on the side there. You can see a bit of a dent there. And I thought if I belt that back, I might disturb that, because this would have been bolted up tight when it copped that, so I'll just leave that there too. So yeah, that's probably the way that's the best way I know anyway, as far as getting sumps back right again. The next little thing you do is you don't know whether you've cracked it because you've been belting around where the bungs are. Could have cracked around here, around there where it's been welded in the past. So you want to find out whether it's going to leak before you put it back onto the engine. So the next thing you do, get it sitting nice and flat somewhere. Somewhere inside you might have to put a block of wood under one end to get it sitting nice and flat. Put about 25 mil, 40 mil, inch and a quarter, inch and a half of petrol. Petrol's thinner than diesel or oil or anything else. If it's going to leak, it'll leak with petrol. The petrol will, if it's just say there's a bit of sludge around here where there could be a crack in the weld, petrol stands more chance of dissolving that oil. And of course if you let it sit there for overnight or something like that, if you can spend the time, come out the next morning, lift it up, have a look around underneath, no petrol leaking, you're probably right. This is where the bit of wire that goes across underneath the screen, that's the only mark it had, that's probably where the wire was just touching. So obviously the outside part had enough room that it wasn't starving for oil. We know now that it's going to be able to suck up all the oil it can possibly get. It's not going to be restricted, and we also know that it's nice and clean. We have also checked the strainer to make sure the strainer is nice and clean, which is a good thing to do too. The next job will be change these oil filters, but what I'll do, I'll probably clean up around here as best I can be before I start. You can hear the dirt and that falling down here now. I'll make sure that's nice and clean. There's a ton of dirt up there around them. Get as much dirt off as I can and we'll change the oil filters. I need to get the sump back on before I clean around those oil filter assemblies. At the moment, if I start getting compressed air to clean around the filters, dirt might get down around the strainer assembly. Might actually sit up underneath it, but it might get around on top of it, on the side of it, so I don't really want to put dirt back into the engine. The day's nearly over now, so I won't bother tackling the filters now, but I've got the new filters here and I've got a couple of drums of railroad oil here. So probably another day I'll be there and I'll change the filters and fill it back up with oil, put the sump on, and hopefully she's going to go again. Some people have been asking what other stuff we're going to do on old Wally. We need to do some work with the wiring and see if we can figure out how we can get it to start on a button up on the dash, which would be quite nice rather than crawl underneath it to hot wire it. And the accumulator on the left hand side, it needs recharge, it needs some oil and that putting in it. And we've got some additives there to put in with the oil to try and liven the old seal up to see if we can get it to seal properly and make up an air fitting to go on top, because the bung at the moment hasn't got a fitting in there to put to put nitrogen or compressed air, whatever we want to put on top of it. That's why it's up on jacks at the moment. We've got things jacked up there, and if you come around here I'll give you a quick look at what's got to be done. It's got a bung up on top here. On the other side the bung has a valve in it, just like a tyre valve. So what we'll probably do, we'll probably get that machined out. We'll probably put another tyre valve in there, and we'll probably put in oil. We might put in, I can't remember exactly how many gallons they say it holds, but we'll just assume that it probably is all leaked out by now. If you have a look in here, the shaft and that feels in pretty good condition, but probably from sitting for a long time, the seal's probably gone hard in here. So we'll put some additive in the oil and put that in and hope that that livens that old seal up. While we're on this subject, I'd like to really thank the couple of viewers that did send me some information on how this system works and what's inside there. So thank you very much. Once we've got that accumulator part fixed, then we'll probably go on to the diff oil, change the diff oil on the back, because it's probably been many years since that's been changed. So once we change that, we know it's good then. We really need to change the radiator water, put coolant in there, drain the water out and put coolant back in. The top hose on one side needs replacing. It did have a pinhole in it, so we bogged it up, but we need to really put a new hose on there, so that solves that problem for a long time, we hope. There's a fair few grease nipples on old Wally. They all need to be cleaned around the grease nipples and greased. Once we get all those jobs done, we might be able, now we're confident we might be able to tip the bin. Now we've got good hoses on there, we might be able to take it round the front if it ever dries out again, and throw some dirt in the back and see how Wally goes with a bit of dirt in the back. We've had a lot of rain here for the last few months, and we really got to wait till things dry out, because if we just back and got bogged and everything, well then, once you've got something like this bogged, we need something about as big as that to pull it out. We've already bogged it once, but it wasn't too badly bogged, and we just had to sit a few weeks until things dried out a bit, and we were very lucky to be able to get it back out the bog and get it in here. We tried to drive it in a bit further. As you can see, it's still got the back end hanging out a bit, but this was as far as we could get, so we thought, oh well, we'll just cut our losses now and just leave it at that. Well, the sun's starting to set over the horizon now, so that'll probably be about it for this video. So until next time, thanks very much for watching.